was shining down on May Day today in Edinburgh, wasn't it? So it was great, fantastic turnout. And certainly from the STEC and from the FB, we want to send our well wishes to our sister Susan Morrison as well. And sisters, brothers and comrades and friends, and I bring May Day greetings from the STEC and the FBU, and I am incredibly proud to be standing here today addressing many great activists within our movement. And many of you may not know this, but the 4th of May is actually Firefighters Memorial Day. And sirens sounded today in fire stations at midday right across the country to commence a minute's silence to honour more than 2,300 firefighters who have lost their lives. And one of those firefighters was our very own Ewan Williamson, firefighter who worked at Tollcross Fire Station in Edinburgh and tragically was killed in the line of duty nearly 10 years ago, fighting a fire at the Balmoral Bar in Edinburgh. And today we remember Ewan, along with names and memories of our fallen comrades, which stays with us always, as we hope that no more names join that Firefighters Memorial. And as we celebrate International Workers' Day, I want to just talk a bit about the FBU. We just had our centenary last year. And in October 1918, a small group of firefighters, disillusioned with the poor treatment at the hands of those who oversaw their service, set up what was called then the Firemen's Trade Union. And the founding aim was a means to organise the conditions of their labours and thus bring more happiness in the lives of its members. More happiness in the lives of its members. What a great ethos, what a great ethos. And that was soon renamed the FBU, the Fire Brigades Union. And the union membership built right across the UK and has forged 100 years of supporting and protecting firefighters through our ethos, which is defined as unity is strength. And we want people outside of our industry within the fire service to understand the pride and the connection that firefighters have for their union. And it comes from our understanding of the achievements of previous generations of firefighters who built a remarkable profession and made it so highly valued in society today. Well, by some in society today, certainly not the Tories. And as firefighters know, we know our history. And we understand that everything in our service had to be fought for by the Fire Brigades Union. And just hearing earlier on from Penny talking about the impact of climate change, we've seen cuts to the fire and rescue service, but climate change is having a huge impact. We're seeing more floods and more wildfires. Last week in the north of Scotland, hundreds of firefighters were out on the moors for days on end fighting those wildfires. And that fight still continues to this day. And firefighters are still campaigning to reverse years and years of pay cuts, attacks on our hard-fought pensions, while still continually challenging the cuts to the fire and rescue service. And in Scotland, the last 4 years, we've seen budget cuts amounting to £53 million in real terms. And that is impacting on the front line. We've lost nearly 1,000 firefighter jobs. We've lost 5 operational fire control rooms from 8 to 3. The majority of women are working in those control rooms. So the biggest impact within the fire service, a 95% male organisation, is on women within those control rooms. And if you look at your fire stations and your local fire stations, you think, oh, there's 1 fire engine, there's 2 fire engines, there's 3 fire engines there. But the majority of the time, between 60 and 100 of those fire engines are lying idle, because we've not got enough firefighters to crew them. And that's a big impact, not just on firefighter safety, but on community safety as well. And the campaigning that firefighters have been involved in, it needs to be applauded. They don't just campaign for their own terms and conditions, but also for improvements in the fire service to support both public safety and firefighter safety. And I cannot address you today without mentioning the tragic events of Grenfell. And the morning of the 14th of June 2017 is one that no firefighter in the UK will ever forget. The images that we all saw showing the horrific events unfolding was unprecedented. watching our brothers and sisters going into that building time after time to rescue people in desperate situations made us proud. But it also concerned that there would still be a huge loss of life despite their efforts. And we know tragically there was in that case. In over 20 years of being a firefighter myself, I've never seen a fire pose such a huge threat to human life. And the firefighters' bravery and professionalism, including those that took the calls in the operational fire control rooms, has rightfully been recognised by most. But we do see the right-wing press coming out once again to blame the workers, and that's an absolute disgrace that that's happening.
Shame.
But what also must be recognised is that these women and men are also trade unionists. Trade unionists who have previously been demonised as militant, anti-establishment, for standing up for fair pay, fair pensions, workers' rights and against cuts to their profession. And the night of Grenfell will have been the toughest shift of their lives, with the memory running deep for a very, very long time. And the FBU will never, ever give up her fight for justice for Grenfell. And when all is said and done, firefighting comes down to one thing. That a small number of people will go into a darkened, smoke-logged room, not knowing what they're going to meet, having faith in each other. In the long run, prepared to risk their lives to save the lives of other people. And in the long run, no matter what transformation we affect the fire service, firefighting in its final stages remains just that, and we do not forget it. And those words were the words spoken at an FBU conference in 1960 in Rothesay by former FBU General Secretary John Horner. And they're pertinent today when discussions are taking place on transforming the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, as they were first spoken then. And we must continue to make sure that firefighters' voices are at the heart of those discussions if we are to see a resilient fire and rescue service that's world-class and capable of dealing with a full range of risks consistently across Scotland. And that requires the resources to do that, and obviously the firefighters to do that job. And the union wants the fire and rescue service to be democratically accountable, both to public we serve and to the firefighters who work in it. In Scotland has always played a key part in the FBU throughout our centenary. Incredibly proud of the officials in Scotland. We've produced great leaders and firsts, such as our former General Secretary Ken Cameron, and Presidents in Enoch Humphreys, Ronnie Scott, and a good sister of mine that's here today, the first woman President of the FBU, Ruth Winters. White straight male occupation, the first woman president, incredibly proud, and a very good mention of mine as well. But it's important to pay tribute to the many officials, not just in my union, but all the unions who've come before us. Unlike many trade unions, there have been disagreements and differences, but there's also a deep-rooted respect. That respect stems from the knowledge of the long hours, the days away from the family home, the passion we have to strive for better pay terms and conditions for our members, and the love we have for our profession. And I want to thank all those who have kept the FBU from not being eaten up by bigger unions. It's imperative that we stay an independent trade union and maintain our reputation as a professional voice for firefighters and the defenders of the fire and rescue service. And I'm incredibly proud of the role my union has played in these last 100 years. Our internationalism, our socialism, and our solidarity with others in the movement. But we still need work to be done on diversity, as the union still reflects a 95% white straight male organisation. And what with all this discovery of embedded sexism and sexual harassment in the workplace, one thing is sure, time is called on the underrepresentation of women in the trade union movement. There are 5.5 million unionised workers in the UK. Women make up half that workforce. So why are they still so underrepresented in union structures and union visibility? Trade union movement collectively represents and gives voices to working people from all walks of life. Yet the stereotypical trade unionist is an older, blue-collar, striped, white, able-bodied man. And how can this be when over the past 40 to 50 years, union strength has declined in traditionally male-occupied industries, such as manufacturing jobs, but the union strength has rapidly grown in public sector where more women occupy a larger part of the workforce. So where are all the sisters? Where are all the sisters? Underrepresentation of women, they're in here, I can hear a few of them. Underrepresentation of women in trade union leadership and structures is a serious blight. In these times of heightened individual awareness of sexual harassment in the workplace, underrepresentation of women is actually dangerous. Without collective representation, individual women suffering the abuse of power feel helpless, isolated and victimised. And the Me Too social media campaign is not enough to challenge everyday workplace power and abuse. The time is now to dig out and eradicate the blight of underrepresentation. Not only are women significantly underrepresented, black, disabled, LGBT+, and young members are almost invisible in sections of our movement. If underrepresentation is a reflection of our unequal society, it is no excuse. Workers deserve better from their movement if we are serious about strengthening the power of workers. Then our structures must reflect the society we wish for, not the unequal one that we're in. And thus far, few in the labour movement have disagreed with me on this, yet little changes. Most of our good committed leaders, reps and activists in position do not think that it is they who have the power or individual responsibility to make that change, but I want to challenge that. So don't be alarmed, brother. Don't be threatened, brother. Don't think you're not valued or not wanted in our movement, brother. You know you are. This is not intended to shock, but I make no apologies addressing directly the men in our movement, particularly those in the most senior, experienced leaders, reps and activists who are deeply committed. Those men that work tirelessly representing members, fighting injustice, inequality and discrimination by the employer. Those men that have been branch secretaries for years are always delegates, first to sign up to an industrial campaign, hands up first to speak. The men that have made personal sacrifices to win collective gains for the workers they represent. Those men occupying multiple union positions. Let's applaud and thank you for your commitment and your achievements. And you still have much to do and much that we can learn from. But let's also ask you to do something really, really radical. To practice proper leadership and invest in our future. Step aside, brother. Are you a man that has held union officer posts for years? Are you a man who is a regular union conference delegate? Are you a man who is always first to sign up to union activity? Hand up first, speaking at meetings, brother? Yes? Then I'm asking you to step aside, brother. Please don't be alarmed. Don't be threatened. Don't think you're not valued or not wanted in our movement, brother. You know you are. We all benefit because your experience is vast, brother. We value your tirelessly representation of workers, fighting employee injustice, inequality and discrimination. And we applaud you and thank you for your commitment and your achievements. And you still have much to do, brother, and much for us to learn from you. This ask is not for you to resign, jack it in, give it all up, or step out, brother. The ask is for you to step aside from just one of your multiple union positions and actively mentor an underrepresented member into that role. And while you, brother, ask yourself, is it really necessary in the best interest of our movement that I hold all these offices? Is there perhaps, by stepping aside from just one of my positions, I can create a space for and bring someone on? Perhaps a woman, black or disabled member, an LGBT plus or young member in need of a step up. It's not that hard to step aside, brother, truly it's not. It requires foresight, genuine commitment, opportunity and timing. And step aside, brother, is no witch hunt or attempt to cull, disempower or punish good brothers for their privilege, not at all. Step aside, brother, does not seek to subvert union democracy, undermine political leadership or take out any individuals. Step aside, brother, is a big ask to men in our movement to make an individual and conscious act to grow the movement for the future. Step aside, brother, recognises the valiant efforts and genuine leadership. And most of the great displays of leadership witnessed among men in our movement are those that already practice what I am preaching. And those brothers that have stepped aside still hold office and influence. The power of those men lies in their politics, not in their position. And their stepping aside makes way for more leaders and future leaders. And we need more men to do this too. Brothers, think about it. True power is present, not when you grasp it and hold on to it, but when you give it to somebody else. And the Step Aside Brother campaign was a campaign started with a dear sister of mine, Lynn Henderson, who was the former president of the STUC. And so far it received with great interest from leading sisters in many different unions, some of whom say to me that it's inspired them to think about how they could give up a position to mentor someone. That's great, but it's not, sisters. We need to make a concerted effort to step aside, so think about it. So comrades, I'll just finish off my speech here. Hopefully I've not offended too many of the brothers in the room. But on a serious note here, we women are underrepresented within the trade union movement. Reflect on some of the comments, reflect on the speech that I've said. If you do one thing today, please look at potentially mentoring somebody that's unrepresented within your group, your organisation, your community activity. Because May Day weekend is about educating, advocating and organised, because the price of equality is eternal vigilance. Solidarity.